This is Edward. Edward is an ESP32 powered robot that can switch back and forth between an autonomous and controlled mode. Let's first talk about his hardware. First, there's an ESP32 cam board with an OV2640 camera. The board is used to create its own Wi-Fi, generate a web app on its IP address, act as an access point for the user to connect to the Wi-Fi and access the web app, receive data from the web app, and send the needed data to the ESP32 Room 32D development board through UART communication. The camera, of course, is for the user to see Edward's point of view. Second, an ESP32 Room 32D development board. This board receives data from the ESP32 CAM board through the mentioned UART communication and controls the sensors and servos with that data. Third, Edward has 4 IR sensors used to detect left and right obstacles, while the other 2 are used to detect cliffs. Next up, Edward has 1 ultrasonic sensor used to measure the distance from nearby obstacles. The sensor also serves to aesthetically look like his eyes. Next, he has 2 continuous servo motors used to drive his wheels. He also has 1 traditional 180-degree servo motor which serves as his neck to pan the ultrasonic sensor, or eyes, and the extended camera of the ESP32 cam board. Next, Edward has a ball caster which generally assists with all of his movement by supporting his back end. And to power these components, Edward has 4 buck converters that step down the voltages from the batteries. He also has 1 boost converter that steps up the voltage from the ESP32 Room 32D development board, which is 3.3 volt logic to 5 volt power to power the ultrasonic sensor. And finally, that of course brings us to Edward's 2 2000 mAh 11.1 volt lithium ion batteries. All of this is mounted on a 3D printed body that I designed in Fusion 360. With all of this hardware out of the way, let's talk about the code that makes Edward who he is. The code is split in 2. One half is in the Arduino language structure, a modified C/C++ language for the ESP32 CAM board, and the other half is in the ESP-IDF structure. ESP-IDF is Espressif's official IoT development framework that works with regular C language, Espressif being the company that creates the ESP32 microcontrollers. But anyways, all of the code was written in the Platform IO IDE with the Visual Studio Code editor. Now finally, let's take a look at Edward's functionality. First, the user connects to Edward's Wi-Fi. They then go to the IP address, in this case 192.168.4.1, in their web browser. With this IP address, the user is taken to Edward's web app, which allows the user to control Edward in controlled mode and switch between controlled and autonomous mode. In controlled mode, the user can, of course, drive Edward. They can have Edward go forward, backward, turn left, and turn right. They can also move Edward's head around and control his speed. But the controlled mode isn't all Edward can do. He also has his autonomous mode. In autonomous mode, Edward roams free. He uses his sensors to drive and avoid obstacles or cliffs on his own. While in autonomous mode, the user can use the web app to switch back to controlled mode at any time. So, that's Edward. I built him to further my knowledge in embedded systems, microcontrollers, and a little bit of robotics. I of course already knew some C, C++, and a bit of the hardware that goes into microcontrollers, but creating Edward was still a bit of a learning process. At first, Edward was powered by an Arduino Uno and his body was made out of poster board. After a few months of researching, ordering, replacing, adding, and upgrading hardware, fine-tuning and debugging software, and even researching, buying, and learning how to use a 3D printer, Edward has achieved his final form. Maybe. He still has some issues. As you'll see, the camera glitches here and there, the wheel and neck servos don't move completely smoothly at low speeds, and his sensors are very limited, so he has some blind spots. But who knows, maybe he'll get some upgrades in the future. Anyways, that wraps it up. I hope you like him as much as I do. Thanks a ton for watching.